Well, there was one other thing that sort of plowed the ground before fairness, and that was the effort and successful effort to get an ordinance passed against discrimination against AIDS people and HIV. But I have to start out personally because the staying out of the closet and into the street applies to me. Because my son came out to me in 1984 at age 21, and immediately I went right into the closet and said, no one must know about this. And although eventually I told two of my best friends, and I started reading mostly autobiographies written by gay men. And then I started going to my church, which had a group of gay and lesbian people. And by the time I had been going to that group, the first March for Justice was coming around. And I was totally by then okay with being gay, with my son being gay. I had accepted it, and I wanted to come out of the closet because the closet is so oppressive. And I must say that it is to parents and families as well as gay people. So if your parent is saying, well, it's okay for you to be gay, but don't tell anybody, that means they're in the closet. So, and they're feeling oppressed too because they're scared of what people might say about them and say that they may be bad parents or something like that. But anyway, I marched for justice with Integrity, the Episcopal gay group, which I had been going to. And I'll never forget Robert Byrd. He had this, banner saying Integrity, and he was holding it really close. And they were scared they were going to be shot, several of them were really terrified. But anyway, there weren't too many people downtown that day, so it was a pretty safe trip. And there I met two other mothers, and we decided to start a group called then it was Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. Now it's Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, because there's aunts, there's uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, all kinds of family members who will be in the closet. And at that time, parents were definitely afraid to come out, and we needed each other for support in order to come out to our friends and families. So that started to be quite a big success, and I don't know why I decided to get on the committee the political committee of the March for Justice. I have no idea why I did that. Now, my son lives in Minneapolis, and Minneapolis has had a fairness law since the early 70s, and I knew about that. So I did want to have one of those laws here in Louisville. And when we met, we decided to go on and do it. And I remember Carla saying, I'll do it. And I was so grateful for that. And so we did it. So out of the closet and into the street we go. And that was my entry into fairness. And I loved the way we operated. We operated by consensus. We were the coordinating committee. We believed in empowering everyone and not being heroes ourselves, but spreading out. And it really, I think what happened is starting fairness put people on the line. Either you were going to come out or you were going to stay in the closet. And a lot of people decided to come out because they knew that that was the secret. after you know gay and lesbian people, you know, well, they're just wonderful people. I remember Dee Dale on TV saying, you know, being gay is just about 10% of a person. And I thought that was such a good thing to say. It's just a small part of who anybody is. Being gay or straight is not a big part of your life, although it is, but it isn't, you know, as far as who you are is concerned. So that's really all I can think of to say, unless anybody has anything else. I must say, when we went to jail, it was an extremely liberating experience. Going to jail was absolutely fantastic, and we didn't have to be in cells. They put us all in the gym, and I got to ride in the paddy wagon with Henry Wallace and George Edwards. Yeah, I never can think of names. Anyway, it was worth it, and it was a very freeing feeling. It was, if you ever have a chance to do that.
I'll say good evening again to my brothers and sisters, all my friends. And looking back 20 years, I can't help but think about Betty Penn. My very, very, very close friend, and also the first person to introduce me to fairness. It wasn't fairness during the 80s, but she said, look, we got to take up this issue. We got to do something about it. And that was odd for Betty, because very few issues Betty wanted to do something about. But when she got started, you couldn't stop her. So tonight, hey Betty. To witness 20 years with fairness, to say that I'm 78 years younger, don't move as fast as I used to move, but I still can move. And I'm grateful for that. And I still can open my big mouth, and I still can tell you when you're wrong, whether you want to hear me or not. Whether you want to do anything about it, it doesn't make any difference. But I know when you get to the country club, or you get to your private quarters, you're going to have a little Prozac, because my voice will still be ringing in your ears. 20 years is a long time, and to be on the march for justice. And we just began. It's not over yet. We still got a battle to fight. I have a battle to fight with myself being an African American. We still haven't crossed over the bridge where we have that freedom and that liberty to welcome our children out of the closet. Our children are still doing strange things, being mistreated and being misused, and sometimes suicide is the last resort for them. We have listened so very, very, very long to the ministers, the African American ministers. You know, they do this King James Bible, they fix it any way that they want to fix it. So they tell us that to be gay, to be a homosexual, that's a sin, that's against God and what God's going to do to you and all. But they never stop to say, hey, what will racism do to you that comes from those white folks that have you bound in chains? What did racism do for your foreparents that were slaves that had to go through all kinds of mistreatment? What did racism do when the slave ships came over and brought us over here in chains? We couldn't even communicate with each other. And we built this country, and then they're taking it away from us and called it America, that Columbus, the biggest lie in the world, discovered in 1492. So I have a job to do until I get so old that I can't walk. I want to bring freedom. And fairness, I want to say to you all that you all have a job to do, because it's got to come from the East End to the West End. We have got to give education throughout this community to let our people know all over, regardless of what color you are or what your economic status is, whatever your sexuality is, you still a human being. You do all the freedoms of life. You do the equal opportunity. You have to buy your home wherever you want to buy your home. And our folk have got to understand, if they can come for you in the morning, then if they can come for fairness in the morning, then they can come for us in the afternoon. Discrimination and racism don't come in sex, it doesn't come in color. It comes wherever they want to apply it to, that you won't stand up for what is right. So fairness, you did a wonderful job, and I am so glad to be a part of fairness. I started out when we were first asking for equal rights. 5th and Broadway.
All right.
We had an alderman. My alderman at that time was Paul Baker. God rest his soul. That he was trying to duck out of the bank and run from us. But he couldn't. We were standing in the rain. It was pouring down raining that day. And Betty Payne said, "I see you, Paul Baker. There you are." So late that afternoon at the alderman meeting, we were down at 6th and Jefferson. And we saw him trying to sneak through the alley. And we followed him in the alley and called out his name. But finally, he met right and wrong in the middle of the path. And he made the decision that I won't be on the wrong side anymore. Before Paul passed away, he too understood that justice for one is justice for all. And he came aboard. And I am so happy that I had a good mother. My music teacher, I never will forget, my piano teacher, was a gay man. And at that time, African American people didn't say gay. They used the word sissy. So my brother made a mistake and said, "Here comes Buster," we called him Buster, "Buster the sissy." And my mother told him up. If that had been a child protective service during that time, she'd been in jail. But we were never allowed to call Buster out of his name. The only thing we were allowed to call him was Mr. Buster. We were never allowed to laugh at Mr. Buster. My mother, bless her heart, she was a good Baptist lady, but she did not believe in that homosexuality was a sin. She never taught that ignorance in our home. And I know too that has brought me a long ways. That brought me from the back of the bus to the front of the bus to have that understanding that I've got to stand up. And then too, when you mistreat my friends, I don't care what they are. What color they are, what sexuality they have, it doesn't make any difference. If you're my friend, you're my friend. When I saw that they were getting ready to mistreat Carla and several other of my good friends, it made my blood boil. And you know, I'm a peaceful person until I get pretty angry. And then, Tom, you know that, I lose it. So when I seen what was happening and how that they were backing up and how they were mistreating and the name callings and the things that was going, and there was no laws in this city to protect anybody because those they had on the book really didn't protect black people. So I had to become involved. And as my brother Bob Cunningham always said, "Brother Bob, if you don't stand up for something, doggone it, you're going to fall for anything." And I'm so glad that after 20 years, I have been able to stand up, not only for my own people, but to stand up for fairness, because they are my people too. Your people and your friends and your relatives, they don't come in colors. They come as the closest to your heart. And I did soul searching and know that I will work until my day is done to bring fairness over this total community. That there will be a time that we have a forum like we have tonight. We will have as many African Americans, young and old, standing up, being able to come out of the closet, don't have to hide anymore, don't have to cry anymore, don't have to commit suicide anymore, and stand up and be proud to come out of the closet and say, "Yes, I'm gay. What about it?"